Now, to our very first story, there's in parts of the eastern regional capital, Koforidua, were yesterday submerged after a heavy downpour. Correspondent Edwin Kofisian joins us on the phone lines with the very latest on the situation there today. So, Kofisian, if you can hear me, how bad is the situation in Koforidua today? Okay, well, it seems we have actually lost Edwin Kofisian out there, but it has to do with floods that some flooding in the eastern regional capital, Koforidua, yesterday. We're told a number of houses were actually submerged in the water. We'll bring you much more on this as and when we do have our correspondent Edwin Kofisian on the line. All right, well, I'm told he joins us now. So, Edwin, I was asking, how bad is the situation in the eastern regional capital, Koforidua, today?
Well, this morning, when I visited the affected areas, the people affected are really counting their losses. Some told me they've indeed lost a lot as a result of the flooding yesterday. One artisan who spoke to me said, well, all his machinery has been submerged in the flooding yesterday, and that it has to take him a lot, in fact, a lot. He couldn't quantify the amount of money that will go into, fixing the problem that he's encountered. Others also have their televisions, their fridges, and all that, taken away by the flooding. So, for now,
Kofi, let me ask: has there been any intervention from any organization, particularly NADMO, for instance?
Well, the regional NADMO boss, Ransford Osubuachi, and his team has been there to assess the situation themselves. And according to him, they've taken stock of really the things that the people have lost and how the flooding has affected them. So what they're going to do is to go back to their office and later come back to assess the victim.
So, some time ago, when there was flooding in Koforidua, we're told that the NADMO officials came over and mentioned, actually, they highlighted that most of the buildings that were submerged the situation was because most of the buildings they had actually been built in waterways. How far with that as well?
Well, this is a suggestion the regional fire commander, ACFO Edward Ashon, made to the district assembly and the National Disaster Management Organization. He said they've realized that people have built on waterways and that those buildings need to be cleared so that water can flow easily. So he made that suggestion to authorities concerned, and up to then, till now, no other authority has come in to implement the suggestion that the regional fire commander made. So still the buildings are on the waterways as usual. Okay.
Edwin Kofisian, many thanks for your time. That was Eastern Regional Correspondent Edwin Kofisian bringing us the very latest on that flooding situation in the region, particularly after flooding there yesterday, after some torrential rains there, I must say. Now, away from that, now psychiatric nurses have this morning begun a nationwide strike over government's failure to meet a September 30 deadline to pay arrears owed them. Spokesperson for the nurses, Frederick Asaridonko, says the group is disappointed in government for failing to live up to its word. He spoke to me earlier on News Desk.
We began with our sit-down strike. That was 2 months ago. We did it for, I think, 2 days. And then on the second day, the Ministry of Health sent a delegation to the hospital. And I think the PRO, Tony Goodman, was part of that team that came. So we had a series of agreements. Even that meeting was not conclusive, and then Haruna, the Minister for Labor Relations and Employment, came. So he came to finalize everything on that meeting that September ending, all the salary arrears would be paid. And for that reason, that agreement would hold if and only if we call off our strike, which we did. Called off the sit-down strike, but we made him aware that if by the end of September we don't get the salary arrest, we would go back to our strike. And he even said jokingly that we can even bring some of our patients to his office. After we had those meetings, we've been going to his office on several occasions. We've been to his service, we've been to Ministry of Health. We had so many assurances. So we were really surprised when the money didn't come.
Are you saying that between the time that you called off the earlier strike and now, no money has been paid to you?
the salary arrears has not been paid. And that was the main reason why we started the sit-down strike. We started this issue long ago. We even went to the Labour Commission because we know we are essential workers and we shouldn't get to this stage. The issue stayed there for almost 6 months before eventually we did the first sit-down strike, and then the minister came, giving us other assurance. We're even telling him that the September ending is too far. So we should do something about it, maybe somewhere August. And the minister said with the August he is not sure. Some might get, others won't. So for him to be on the safer side, let's shift the whole thing to September ending, and he's going to make sure every arrest will be paid.
Okay,
and even on that set, he said other 6,000 health workers will be validated and they also get their salary arrest. And the September came to pass, no show.
I mean, we'll come to the deadline you give them, and seeing that today is the 1st of October, well, a lot of things may still be in the pipeline. But I'm still trying to understand one thing. Were you told, for instance, that you're going to be paid the money in lump sum or you're going to be paid in bits? And again, I need to really find out from you whether or not any money at all has been paid to you.
The whole issue started from this angle. We worked for 1 year and over before government paid us the first 3 months. Some even didn't get the 3 months, and ideally it shouldn't be so.
So some have been paid?
That was the 3 months, and then the remaining arrests, some 7, some 8 months, some even 13 months, because that 3 months they didn't get anything. We're getting good assurances that the money will come. Even just before the month ended, we went to the minister, I think on 2 occasions, and he was optimistic the money was coming.
Well, still on the psychiatric nurses strike, and patients at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital are unhappy about the junior nurses strike. Michaela Richter Anderson visited the facility and interacted with the nurse on duty on how she's dealing with the overwhelming situation.
Labor unrest in this country is becoming frustrating. First, we had the doctors embarking on a strike 2 months ago over their conditions of service. Government gave them sweet talk and they resumed work. Just yesterday, we had NAGRA so extending the ultimatum to embark on an industrial action over unpaid allowances. Today, junior nurses at the psychiatric hospital are also laying down their tools over unpaid arrears. Well, you recall that 2 months ago, the Labour Minister assured them that their grievances are going to be addressed by the end of September. Today is the 1st of October and still no show, so they've decided not to work. What is going to be the effect on the inmates? How are they going to be taken care of?
The nurses' strike is going to affect me so much that this morning, for instance, I'm the only permanent staff on duty, and the ward has 43 patients, psychiatric patients currently on the ward, and I have to take off them alone. So imagine any of them gets aggressive. You can just say how I'm going to restrain them. It's a problem. It's very difficult. So if the government can do something about it so that they come back to the ward and work with us, we'll be very happy.
Now, obviously, those really affected by the strike action by these junior nurses are the patients, the psychiatric patients. Now, some of them have been sharing their thoughts on this particular action embarked upon by their caretakers.
If you say Amaya din aha nyede aha eboko senomo ha no mama yenijiri say yenjisa.
We are very sad that the nurses are not here to take care of us. Government should pay them their salary so they will come back to work.
Abai no so na adwini wa na adwen brafie na adwen brafie dan say tem so din droba afeni na hye se sendu ni boye din enti dam no assorti munji NHC and then National Health Insurance because baby ko ba kra nko ade nko bantini le mtiase edwan NHIS.
Or some interesting comments there. But away from that, and the work is set to resume on the Gang of 4 roads by the middle of October after stalling for some time due to the unavailability of funds. Now that's the word of Roads and Highways Minister Alhaji Inusa Hussein, who says work is set to resume in the next few weeks once money from the Eurobond hits the Finance Ministry's accounts.
How much do you need to finish the Gang of 4?
Well, between $100 and $150 million.
And if we do not get this from the Eurobond, which date have you set to complete these projects? Because it's been on the table for a very long time.
The dates are very fluid. The dates are very fluid because we have had to extend the time for completion of this project so many times. The projects were awarded in the Sohum Abuja one, and the Sofola interchange were awarded in 2008. So with rates that presently are of no economic value. So we have not only had to extend the completion date for the projects, we also had to review the rate because of the inflation and devaluation of the city. So is the two lots, lot 2 of the Eastern Corridor, that is from Esikuma Junction to Have, and lot 4 from Nkwanta to Otidemanko. Awarded in 2010 to be completed in 24 months, 2012 ought to have been completed.
So with the fuel situation now, by what time should we see these routes finished? Well,
so we've reviewed and we told them that the last time we went to the Eastern Corridor, we extended it by another 2 years. But now they're not working, not because they don't have the whole government, our government owes them any money, it's because of the rates. We are now, we've put in a committee to review the rates to bring them to real economic value, so that the people can be motivated to go and work.
So work has stopped on all these gang of 4 for now?
Work has stopped on virtually all of them, yes.
Until when?
Until we review the rates, and then the rates will be reviewed probably by the middle of October. By the time the finance minister will be back.
Well, the minister has also been speaking on plans by his outfit to actually get some footbridges on the N1 highway.
One major thing that you spoke about the last time about the footbridges on the N1 highway, especially the Abakala Pass stretch. The promise was made by the Roads and Highways Ministry that you indeed fix the footbridges to solve the problem of a lot of people dying on that stretch. Yeah. What's happened? It's still not being constructed.
The footbridges have been, the implementation of the construction of the footbridges program has been greatly affected by the IMF program we've entered into.
Why is that?
We had secured funding to construct the footbridges. The funding was from commercial sources, and the IMF has put a cap on the limits by which we can take funding from commercial sources. And so that clearly is the challenge now. So what we have done presently is to use the resources to do the street lighting infrastructure. Then presently the contract is at the Central Tender Board for concurrent approval, and so that we can lighten up the street. And so that the most accidents occur in the night when vehicles using the road do not see pedestrians crossing. And so when we lighten up the street, at least it will improve upon the security situation.
But for those crossing, and for those at Abekan who are watching, they would know that the problem is not really about the lights, it's about the ease with which they cross from one side to the other.
But
so
there are pelican crossings. So if we say that it's the ease, there are pelican crossings. I mean, what we call the zebra crosses.
Yes.
But all the same, we have accidents. So people do not simply obey. And we say that because most of the accidents occur in the night, the drivers, by the time they see the people crossing, it's too late to apply the brakes. And that's why we're lighting up the place. In the absence of the footbridges, we think that we should improve on the security situation on the road. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, so IMFDO stops this from happening. When would these people get the footbridges?
Well, so we have to look at other sources. We have to look at where we can attract concessional facilities. We have to see whether the government of Ghana can use the budget GOG to fund the construction of the footbridges. And in fact, we have to look for resources to be able to do that.
Okay. For the street lighting that you speak of on the N1, when will we see it done?
Well, it's at the Central Tender Committee board. I mean, immediately they give us approval, the man will go in. In fact, the contractor has taken pains to go to Turkey to acquire the infrastructure that he will use to do the road, and he's told me that he's shipped it down. He's gotten the contract, except that he must have concurrent approval from.
Now, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Eko Spiogabra, says discussions are almost complete for the development of the Fusu Lagoon in the central region. The $1 billion project, which is expected to revitalize economic activities in the ancient capital, will soon take off. Now, at the stakeholders meeting to conclude discussions on the project in Cape Coast, the minister said the Marina City project is intended to contribute to the total transformation of Cape Coast to befit its status as the first capital of Ghana.
the President of the United States came to Africa, he did not go anywhere in Africa except Ghana. In Ghana also, he did not go anywhere except Cape Coast, and went back to the United States with his family. I had hoped, as a former ambassador to the United States, that Ghanaians would have understood the symbolism and the importance of that particular visit. And even since then, based on our national tourism programs and campaigns, we would have had plane loads of Americans, especially African Americans, coming to Ghana, if for nothing else but to follow the footsteps of their president and to visit our two most important castles that are in this area. That's Cape Coast Castle and Elmina, as part of at least generating revenue for this country and for this region. And will also put a greater emphasis on Ghana's maritime resources, its blue economy, the opportunity to strengthen and to improve the fishery industry as a whole, which of course will benefit the central region, Greater Accra, Western and Volta regions that are all along the coastline. And of course, even that rejuvenation and strength of the fishery industry can benefit other regions of the country where riverine communities. If you have a river, the Volta Lake goes all the way to the northern region, borders Bronga, Half Ashanti, Eastern, and Volta. And all those regions can also benefit from this revitalization of the oceanic resources.
You're watching News Today here on Joy News Multi TV. We'll return shortly with some more. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Today. Now, the minority in Parliament is demanding engineers and planners pay for the full cost of machinery and equipment improperly released to them to undertake dredging of the Odo River. Now, addressing a news conference, ranking member of the local government committee, Kwesi Acheme, said the equipment were procured solely for distribution to the assemblies, but were rather given to the engineers and planners for its private use. The group also wants an inquiry into expenditures undertaken by DCs in the absence of a constitutionally constituted assembly. Elton John Bobe joins me now over the telephone with details. Now, Elton, can you tell me more about the accusation the minority is leveling against engineers and planners?
Well, according to them, these equipments were procured for some district assemblies in the country. And they provided evidence to back the claim that the Parliament approved this agreement that was put before them between Government of Ghana and GP Ganta Papenberg AG, a German equipment company, for the supply of equipment and machinery for the benefit of selected district assemblies, especially the newly created for the district assemblies. Now, they are saying that when the equipment came, the equipment were put together in a pool under the directorship of a private company. But instead of releasing the equipment to the selected assemblies that went in for these equipment, it came as a huge surprise to them that the very equipment found their way into private hands. And went to engineers and planners on the instruction of our Deputy Local Government Minister, Neil Antibanda. In their estimation, this amounts to a diversion of state property to an individual because of its link to the top echelons of government. And they are of the view that engineers and planners should be made to pay for the full cost of the machinery improperly released to it and in its possession. And they are also demanding some questions or some response from the local government minister. And one of them is that they are asking when did the Minister of Local Government take delivery of the equipment and machinery. And they are also asking whether did the minister take delivery of the equipment and machinery as specified in the commercial agreement. And they are saying that because the equipment came in a brand new form, but instead of giving to the assembly, they were giving to some planners, and they have used it for some businesses. They cannot return it to the assembly, and for that reason, government must put pressure on engineers and planners to pay for the cost of the equipment, import new one for the assembly, so they can use it for their, for the use in their various districts.
Elton, we also understand that there's been talk of some sort of a probe into dealings at the district assembly level, particularly after district chief executives were made to take over the responsibilities of assembly members. Can you tell us much more about that?
Well, they're saying that 1 month after the holding of the elections, there is general quietness, and there does not appear to be any certainty about what to expect after the election. I'm sure you are aware that without the assembly properly constituted, it will be difficult for the district chief executive to function financially, because they will need the approval of the assembly before they can take any financial project. And in the absence of these assembly, because government has just sworn these assembly members, what it means that the district chief executive cannot, undertake any financial project. But they are saying that they have information that some have undertaken financial projects, and they are asking on whose authority were they given the approval to undertake this financial, project. And that's the more reason why they are asking that some kind of inquiry is instituted into how the GCE spent money without the approval of the constituted assembly, and they want, Parliament to look into this particular issue. Are they giving any timelines to this particular demand of theirs? Well, that will be a matter for government to respond. Remember, Parliament is on recess. They are due back on 27th of October. One of the tools they intend to use when the House reconvenes, if it does not get a response before the House reconvenes, will be for them to file an urgent question in Parliament, for the ministers to come and brief them on steps being taken to ensure that accountability is done at assembly level relating to financial administration in the absence of the constituted assembly member. Many thanks for your time, Elton Brobe, for that very updates there, and we'll be bringing you much more on that in a subsequent news broadcast. Now, we can do some other stories now. Now, authorities, the Ghana Post say moves to improve upon service delivery are being frustrated by encroachers and squatters who have occupied properties of the company. We can get more on this from my colleague Latif, who joins me live now over the telephone. So, Latif, what more can you tell us on this particular development?
Yeah, as we speak, we are at a place called Cable and Wireless. That is vast property of the Ghana Post Service. Now, what they are planning to do, according to the head of estate, Charles Osiedu, is that they want to improve upon their services, produce a precise and speedy delivery of services to their clients. But then their move is being frustrated. Now, if it comes to Cable and Wireless, now we have squatters who have built makeshift structures all over the place. And the move they are making right now is that they want to go into partnership with the Accra Metropolitan Assembly to come and demolish all these structures here so that they can expand and then improve upon their services as they state in China.
I see. So you have obviously been with the authorities or officials of the Ghana Post. Have they spoken about moves to develop these lands they speak of?
Exactly, that is what they want to do. Now, aside, improving upon their services, the next thing they would want to do is also build estates and lease it out to workers of Ghana Post and also whoever wants to take up the estate. So aside the work of their mainstream work of providing services as far as delivery of post and courier services are concerned, they now want to move into estate development. And so now they are also trying to contract private developers to come on board to develop this very land here at Cable and Wireless Center.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, now Ghana Post is trying to diversify its portfolio more or less, and they are now going to do what? Partner with or pair up with?
Yeah, go into partnership with estate developers.
And then begin some sort of estate work?
Exactly. They want to develop this place and then give it out to private entities and then workers of the company who want to get into estate here.
Okay, all right. Many thanks for your time, Latif. Idris bringing us some more from the Ghana Post. We're taking a break here on News Today. We'll be back shortly with business. Well, time now for business. And in our very first story, Joy Business sources say government is likely to review its Eurobond. And my colleague George Yafe, he has much more information on that. He joins me now in studio with the very latest on that. So, George, so far, what information have you gathered on this particular?
Well, there are a lot of information flying around. The team has been to London, they've been to Frankfurt, they've been to some states in the United States of America, they went to Boston, that is in the US, and they are now in New York. Now, what we hear initially is that they are likely to close this exercise of engaging businesses out there to raise $1.5 billion. That's what we knew. Now, yesterday, going through the wires and also picking some information from our sources, we heard that government is likely to review this amount down to $1 billion. What is the reason? We understand that most of these investors outside are asking for a little bit higher price in terms of trying to lend to government. Now, the last Eurobond, we got 8.25% on it, and an annual interest that we're going to pay every year. Okay. That rounds up to almost around $80 million or anything. But government must make sure that they don't get higher rate, because the higher the rate, the more expensive it becomes in servicing that loan. What we are picking up, and also the Bloomberg News is reporting, is that most of these investors who are preparing to give the funds to government are asking for a little bit of higher interest, way above what we got the last time. And that has been a problem for government. So they are considering reducing the amount to $1 billion. Now, don't forget that going into this exercise, there was a promise that we're going to raise $1.5 billion. Exactly. $500 million of that amount is going to pay some old debt. These are investors who bought into our second Eurobond, which is going to mature 2017. So you use that amount of money to defray that debt. Then you are left with $1 billion. Use the $1 billion to support projects outlined in the budget. We're looking at some road projects, the Gang of Four, and other things as well. So if indeed government is going to reduce this amount, then you're going to be left with just $500 million to fund those projects. And that might just not be too good for government. And that is the situation now. So we hope that government is not forced to do this, because again, going into the US market, our rate that we got on the bond wasn't good. It's more of a junk status. The verdict that these rating agencies passed on our bond was that, listen, be careful dealing with government, because they might have challenges in paying these debts that you manage to borrow to them on time. So that went into the pricing of what these investors are prepared to government.
So let me ask, George, what sort of an impact is this likely to have on these?
Well, the impact is that, don't forget, government going into this exercise, they've planned, they've earmarked some of these funds to support certain projects. If we don't get all the $1.5 billion, it means that some of these projects that government were planning to use the money for, if, for instance, a road project in your village, maybe retire some debts that are maturing and all those things, it means that government might be forced to hold on to that project, because don't forget, even these foreign projects that they come in, there's a bit we call counterpart funding. So, for instance, the Brazilian government is supporting the Circle interchange for us. There's a fraction of that whole fund for that project that government has to commit. So you need monies like this to provide part funding for some of these projects. So it's not even just about a project where government is totally funded. So this is how critical this is. If that is true, it will have serious implications on government finances. Government might be forced again to either cut down on this expenditure or have to hike taxes to make up for this challenge. Again, don't forget that there are some people too who are private firms in Ghana here. Government owns them, and part of these monies are going to be used to defray those debts. So if again government really settles on that, that might not be good. A lot of pressure on government finances.
I see. George Jaffe, many thanks for your time, and that's my colleague George Jaffe of Joy Business bringing us the very latest on that. And indeed, obviously, as you heard earlier in the news, well, the Minister for Roads and Highways had mentioned that they were waiting for some money from that particular Eurobond. Well, we'll see how it goes. But moving on now, in the vessel that will be used to produce, store and offload crude oil from the Trinidad and Union into May 10 oil field is now getting ready to set sail from Jurong Singapore shipyard to Ghana. Now, this will happen after a formal ceremony in Singapore yesterday to name the vessel after late President John Evans Samuels. But as George Jaffe reports, this could fast-track processes for commercial production of crude oil.
FPSO John Evans Samuels is expected to arrive in Ghana by March next year. This will pave the way for commercial production of crude oil at the country's second biggest oil field to start by June next year. The vessel will have the capacity to produce 80,000 barrels of crude oil a day and a storage capacity of 1.7 million barrels of crude oil. Daily production at the 10 field will start at around 20,000 barrels and eventually increase to 80,000 by the end of 2016. This would improve the country's total crude oil production to about 160,000 barrels and eventually reach 200,000 barrels by 2017. Another good news is that the light sweet crude that the field will be producing is seen by many of higher grade or premium quality, which will mean that the 10 crude will be getting a good price from a lot of buyers. Asia is already seen as a major market for the crude oil from Ghana. However, the concern is that with forecasts that crude oil prices could be declining further in the coming years, there are some who are worried about the fortunes of the 10 and the Jubilee field in the coming years when it comes to getting good prices for their crude oil. Government is also hoping to get about $2 billion in revenue alone from the 10 field and expects about $20 billion in investments in the oil sector for the next 5 years.
Now, cocoa prices are expected to shoot up as production in Ivory Coast, the world's largest grower, falls. And that's the latest projection from EcoBank. Although there are expectations of a rebound in production for Ghana, EcoBank is, however, uncertain about the outlook for Ghana as it comes out of a slump in production.
Global demand recovering and expectations of a global deficit this season, EcoBank says it expects prices to strengthen further. It said there could be price spikes ahead of the new season starting in October because farmers would hold back their beans in expectation of higher fixed prices in the coming season. The bank, in its forecast, also affirms fears of a fall in Ivorian production because of dry weather. For Ghana, it forecasts a modest rebound in production to 800,000 tons, but noted that Cocoa Board will need to keep back up to 200,000 tons of cocoa to cover contracts from the 2015-2016 season left unfulfilled due to the shortfall.
Oh, that's it for business right here on News Today. We'll be back shortly with sports. Stay with us. Well, that's it for the here on News Today. For more news, do want to log on to myjournonline.com. My name is Kwabna Chenchen Wating. Have a good afternoon.